publicity, and I talk extensively about this in the book. The publicity was fairly terrifying, and it was all the Noni rocks, you know. would you do a leather photo shoot and all that kind of stuff, which was pretty mad. But there's another story I recount where I get rung randomly by the head of Channel 7 asking me to be part of a new show. Oh, you're part of the Seven family, having not heard from them for 2 years, once I got sacked on turning 50 from Better Homes. But she rang and said, oh, we have this great new show and it's about singing, and you get to sing with a singer, and it's called It Takes Two, and it's from the British program. I thought, well, it wouldn't be original, would it? And I said, well, yeah, well, last year Nikki Webster was roundly criticised for doing Dancing with the Stars because she'd had prior dancing training. And people know I can sing. She went, well, as long as you haven't had an album or been in a musical. I said, well, I've done both. And she said, no, I mean in living memory. Oh, tempting, but no.
Just one final I don't want to preempt, but I firmly believe that it's 50% luck and 50% hard yakka. Do you agree?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, 50% luck for sure. But the other 50% is being prepared. You know, and as Larry Moss, my mentor, said, if you only do television, it'll kill you. Get on the stage, because that's the real work. That is the real work. Telling the story, relating to the audience, and it's alive and it's immediate. That's the thing actors have to do. Meryl Streep did 40 plays before she did a film at university.
Is that your real love, theatre?
I like all the media. I like doing radio. I like the different sets of disciplines that are required for each medium. I love, you know, dancing with the cinematographers on film, but I do love the playing of an audience. I find that really exciting, particularly when I'm solely responsible for how they react. Yeah, it's thrilling.
Well, Noni, it's been great catching up with you and talking to you. I really like the book. I love learning about parts of your life I knew nothing about. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you all very much. Thank you.
It's Noni Hazlehurst speaking at a literary lunch with Margaret Pomeranz, no less. Her memoir is called Dropping the Mask. We'll head to Queensland in just a moment. It has been a more interesting night than expected in the Queensland election. It does seem, though, that the LNP are looking like they will form government in Queensland. We'll talk to a reporter in just a moment.
Fun fact about Fisk.
I love it.
Law firm life's not what you think.
Do you know what partners do?
Sudoku. It's one a bunch of Lokies. Big announcement. Where's the mud cake? No mud cake? Oh, because it don't get any worse. And Screen Hub calls it Australia's funniest sitcom in years. Prove it. Oh, I will.
Oh, hey, that's childish.
The brand new season of Fisk.
People are trying to work.
Sunday nights on ABC TV. And always free, always entertaining on ABC iView. Nightlife with Suzanne Hill
On ABC Radio.
Queensland has went to the polls today, and although it looked earlier in the evening that perhaps it would be a hung parliament, Anthony Green has predicted that the Liberal National Party will form the next government, and that David Crisafulli will be the 41st Premier of Queensland. Kenji Sato is ABC Brisbane reporter who is, he's on the case tonight. Hey, Kenji, welcome.
Good day, Suzanne.
So it has been a sort of a more interesting night than expected. There was thinking that perhaps this would be a landslide and that no one would be talking about a hung parliament. How's the evening played out?
Yes, no, you're exactly right. I myself and a lot of pollsters had been expecting a thoroughly boring evening. In fact, we thought that we would be all wrapped up and heading to bed with a landslide LNP victory, but it really hasn't been the case. There has been a lot of predictions that have made throughout the night that haven't panned out. At the moment, the latest call is that the LNP look as though they will be holding a government, but it remains to be seen exactly whether they'll have enough to have a majority or whether or not they will have to do some deals with the Katter Party in order to govern. There has also been several upsets. The Greens had been expecting to pinch a couple of seats from Labor, and that hasn't materialised. In fact, by the way that the current polls are looking, it looks like the Greens have in fact, lost a seat. I'm currently outside of the Greens headquarters as we speak. The mood was initially optimistic at the beginning of the night, but at the moment, the mood is a lot more somber since none of the key Labour inner city Brisbane seats that they were targeting have managed to fall to the Greens. All of them look to be retained by Labour, and the way that things are shaping up, they've also lost the Green seat of South Brisbane to Labour themselves. So there have been a lot more upsets, and things have been a lot more touch and go than pollsters and media pundits had initially projected earlier in the night.
So, Kenji, has Premier Stephen Miles conceded yet, or is that still some time away?
Still some time away for myself. I know that Cameron Dick was saying that it has been less of a defeat than was initially projected, but I think he's conceded that it looks as though it will be an LNP government. They are quite clear-eyed on that front. But at the moment, yes, it's very limited words coming out from Stephen Miles. As we speak, again, it's still very early to tell exactly what the state of play is at the moment, whether or not it's a majority, or exactly how crushing of a defeat it really is for Labour at the present. So a lot more predictions on the way.
So Kenji, assuming that the LNP do end up in government, whether it's majority or minority, what have they promised? What are they bringing to Queensland?
So the LNP have run a campaign that has really focused on youth crime and crime in general. For those who live in the Sunshine State, for those who have the immense privilege, you may see a lot of those billboards around adult crime, adult time billboards. It's one of those things that is impossible to escape from, especially if you're in one of the seats that the LNP has really been targeting this election time. When it comes to a lot of the other cost of living measures that Labour have introduced, they have been really quite silent on a lot of them. For example, Labour's 50-cent fare, public transport fares, they were introduced. There have been a lot of questions as to whether the LNP would wind that back. It seems the answer to that is no. Abortion was one of those topics that came up quite late in the campaign, and the LNP have been rather evasive on the topic. They say that there are no plans to change the abortion laws, but questions around whether or not LNP MPs would get a conscience vote, or whether or not individual MPs would vote in favour of criminalising abortion if such a bill was put up. Those are things that they've staunchly refused to answer, leading many on the more progressive side of politics to be worried that an LNP government may indeed usher in abortion criminalisation, despite the assurances that that is currently not on the LNP's agenda. So those are a few of the policy issues that have really defined this Queensland campaign. For the last couple of weeks, it's really been a moving target.
And Kenji, given that there had been those predictions that the LNP would win in a landslide, what appears to have at least softened some of the damage when it comes to Labor's performance tonight?
Well, there have been several surprise announcements from Labour election sweeteners. Stephen Miles had said that he had refused to play a small target game. He has been described as a premier with nothing to lose. So he's been running a very active, very aggressive campaign. He's announced a whole range of cost of living measures, like the aforementioned 50-cent bus and train and ferry fares. He's announced free school lunches, and he's made himself a very sort of visible sort of media target. You compare that to David Crisafulli, who has limited, LNP leader David Crisafulli, who has limited his media appearances and has really just tried to keep out of the spotlight, unlike Stephen Miles, who has taken every opportunity that he's been given to attend a press conference. He's been very aggressive on social media as well. He bench pressed 100 kilograms in a show of strength on TikTok in hope to win some of the younger voters.
Oh, that must be what did it, Kenji.
That's quite possibly it. I was quite personally impressed as a bit of a gym junkie myself. 100 kilograms is nothing to sniff at, but nevertheless, it seems that despite a lot of the free sweeteners, a lot of the election sweeteners, it seems that that wasn't quite enough to get them over the line. But again, despite a lot of these, the free money being handed around or being promised, it seems that pollsters weren't convinced that it would be enough to save a Queensland Labour government, and it looks like that has not indeed been the case. One of the few correct predictions of tonight's election campaign.
Well, Kenji, it looked like you were going to be heading home to bed, as you said, but it looks like you've got to Brisbane, and just updating you there, it's, look, there's still quite a long way to go really in this count, but Anthony Green has forecast that in Queensland the Liberal National Party will be forming government. Whether it's in majority or minority is yet to be seen, and probably that won't be clarified tonight, I would imagine. We have the latest ABC News coming up for you in about a minute and a half, and in a moment I'll tell you who our music guest is going to be tonight. Conversations.
Spend an hour in the life of someone else. I get this phone call.
He goes, oh, Bill, your music is absolutely beautiful and
Celebrating 100 years of your stories.
Hello, it's Lisa Leong on ABC Radio Sunday. Your stories are the heart of our show. Whether it's your insight into retirement living, your handbrake horror stories, or how to make the best toasty ever. Thanks so much for sharing.
Celebrating 100 years of your stories. And 100 years of 774 ABC Radio Melbourne.
Lots of great radio still to come for you this evening. Next hour, I have a playlist for you. Of course, every Saturday night we have a special guest who curates your playlist. You're going to be spending an hour with musician Kim Hurling, who we've got some great tracks for you. If you're a Billy Joel fan, you'll enjoy this. But he has a remarkable story. He was one of the first Vietnamese orphans adopted in the wake of the Vietnam War, and arrived in Australia back in the 1970s. So he'll tell you that story, as well as playing you some of his favourite songs. Stick around.
ABC News with Andrew Kalupas. The ABC projects that the Liberal National Party will form government in Queensland, defeating the Labor Party led by outgoing Premier Stephen Miles. David Crisafulli will be the 41st Premier of the state. The party has been in opposition since the defeat of Campbell Newman's government after a single term in 2015. The LNP will win enough seats to make it the largest party in Parliament, but it's not yet clear if the party will win the 47 seats required for majority, or if it needs to rely on crossbenchers. The Queensland Treasurer Cameron Dick says it appears Labor has lost.
We need to reflect on what this means for our party, because losing government is a very difficult thing, and we need to all reflect on that as members of Parliament, but the broader Labor movement, who did a wonderful job, incredible job campaigning and supporting it.
Iran is downplaying the impact of Israeli attacks across the country, while Israel says its strikes on military targets have concluded. Here's Middle East correspondent Eric Twarchik.
Flights have resumed in and around Iran after Israeli warplanes attacked a number of sites overnight. Streets in the capital Tehran appeared calm, and Iranian state media reported the damage from Israel's attack was limited. The Israeli military says it struck missile manufacturing and launch sites in retaliation for an Iranian barrage on October the 1st. The exact targets remain unknown, but the United States says Israel did not hit energy or nuclear facilities, which some had feared.
World leaders are calling for restraint after Israel launched its airstrikes on Iran. The US says it was informed of the strikes beforehand, but had no involvement in them, urging Tehran to break the cycle of violence. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he'll continue to work with allies to de-escalate the situation across the region.
I am clear that Israel has the right to defend itself against Iranian aggression. I'm equally clear